Hey guys, I just got in from snow blowing. It is January 3rd and it was like 12 inches of snow. I am so sick and tired of this. Don't know why we live in South Dakota, but we're all here together, right? Well, I just wanted to touch base with you on this new year, and I wanted to talk about casting a vision for your small group. We talked about vision when I first asked you to start your group. I asked you about this. What do you want your group to look like? How do you want to serve God together? How do you want to spend time together? How do you want to grow together? And hopefully you casted a vision from the very beginning and people were interested in that vision, and so they joined. But as we begin the new year, you probably haven't met for a few weeks, and sometimes going into a new year, when you're out of your routine, it's really hard to get going again. So I think one of the best ways to do that is to set a time to meet. Make sure you do that as soon as possible in this new year. Set a time to meet and then talk about casting vision. Or recasting vision. Maybe you've never casted vision, you kind of just started as a group together. Maybe you casted vision a long time ago and you need to recast that. Whatever else it may be. You might be a long-term group that you've been meeting together for a few years. You maybe just started, or maybe you're in a short-term group where you know that you're going to be ending here pretty soon. Whatever else it may be, it doesn't matter. I still think groups need to have a vision of why you exist. Because we know that in Proverbs 29:18 it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And so we need to have a vision. So a vision is a statement of the functional purpose of your small group. What do you exist for? What is your group all about? And why are you together? What are you doing this together for? So I encourage you at the beginning of your first time that you meet, talk for about 15 to 30 minutes about vision. I'm going to give you a few things to consider, a few things to talk about. But what do you hope to go after in 2023 this year? So many people right now are reassessing their lives, looking at their habits, looking at their priorities. And so this is a perfect time to help people prioritize God, prioritize community, prioritize serving, prioritize growing in their faith. So how do you do this? I think the first thing you need to be doing is praying and seeking guidance from God. And potentially other people and myself if you have some issues in your group right now or just need help, whatever it may be. But first, pray. Ask God how your group has been, and then ask Him where maybe He's asking you to lead, where He's asking you to guide your group this year. And so then the second thing is assess where you are. Our common vision as a Connection Group's ministry is meet, share, grow. And if you need to review that, you can go back to the trainings that we did when you first started, or the handouts. If you need the handout, I can give that to you if you've lost it. But the questions then you can be asking yourself before you even bring this to your group to assess where you're currently at is, how have you been doing on meeting? Are you guys constantly canceling? Are you meeting on a consistent basis? Has it been up in the air a lot? Is there a consistent attendance? That's the first thing. You can't be a small group if you're not consistently meeting. You can't be a small group if people aren't showing up. And so how are you doing on meeting? Be honest with yourself on that. And then the second thing is how are your conversations? Is it one person that's primarily dominating the conversation? Is it you that's primarily dominating the conversation? That's a good question for myself, as I like to talk quite a bit. Are there many people sharing? Are you guys feeling trust with one another? Have people come out of their shell, and have they been sharing openly and honestly about what's going on in their lives and about the topic that you're talking about? Do you feel as though your group is growing in their faith, both individually and collectively? Do you feel like maybe it's been a dry season? How can you maybe assess where you're currently at there? And then, are you serving together as a group? Are you serving separately in the church, in the community? Are you doing those things? Have you spent time together outside of the group? Are you actually friends? That seems like a weird question, but I've been in small groups where we weren't even really friends with one another. So have you guys been spending time together outside of just the time that you meet for your small group? And then, have you considered inviting anyone else into your midst? Have you thought about splitting up in the future? Those are good things to talk about. Always keeping your mindset towards the outside, because yes, we want you to grow in that group so deep and so strong together, but we know that we need more groups. We need to raise up leaders. We need to send out people. And so have you considered talking about what it looks like to even think about splitting up at some point in the future? So what about the mission you originally set out for? How is the mission you set out for in the beginning matching up with where you're currently at? That's a good question. And then, again, think about some of these things before you even bring it to your group so that you have an understanding of where you are, but before you receive input from others. And so you can kind of present where you see the group at, maybe what some of the struggles are, and then you can ask your group, do we feel good about where we're at as a group? Are there things God is calling us to this year? Are there things that we need to let go of, or things that we need to rework when it comes to how we're meeting, how we're sharing, and how we're growing together? Take notes as people are responding, and then read back what you're saying. Say, here's what I'm hearing from our group. And then as you kind of assess where you're currently are, the next step is to focus on a few main ideas. Number one being, how can we support each other well? How can we be there for one another in the highs and the lows of life? How can we ensure that we're growing in our faith? How do we have accountability to actually grow? Because otherwise, you're just meeting for kind of a social group, and that's great, but we're here to grow in our faith closer to Christ, to be a disciple of Jesus. So how can you hold each other accountable this next year, this next season in growing in your faith? How can we serve together in the church and in the world around us? If people aren't individually serving, how can we encourage each other to actually take a step out to serve in our jobs, in our workplaces, in our families, in our lives, and in the church as well? And then how do we love and care for one another here right now, but always keep our focus on the next one, the outsider, the person who's not connected, the person who needs to be in your small group? And then at this point, you could even consider creating a plan for multiplication. My wife and I struggle with this because we have a small group that we love right now, but we know that there are more young adults or more young families in our church and in the world around us that need to be in our community and need to be in our small group. So what does it look like to love each other well, but then also even invite others into your group, or even split up into other groups? We need more leaders, more groups, more people reaching others for Christ. So make sure you get on the same page with these things. You could talk about this all night long if you wanted to, but I think it's so important to just have a common conversation about this. I think it will help your group grow. Again, whether your group is ending soon or whether your group's going to go on for years to come, hopefully, it's still good to have a common vision for your group. So take what applies to you, use it. I hope it's beneficial for you, and let me know if you have questions.